Hello and welcome to Weird Around Illinois. A few weeks ago, we told you all the story of Resurrection Mary and did a little investigation of the area. Well, this led to a little bit more information from one of our listeners. So let's talk about it and let's get weird. So, just a quick recap on Resurrection Mary. It is believed that she was a woman who in 1939 was killed either in a hit-and-run car accident or riding with somebody in a car or walking along the road and hit by a car. There are many conflicting stories, but the point is that she was killed somewhere between what became the Willowbrook Ballroom and her home. And all this was in the vicinity of Resurrection Cemetery. So people have been seeing Resurrection Mary basically ever since then. And some people have seen her in the ballroom or in other local establishments, and they claim to have picked her up in the car, given her a ride, then she disappears when they get to Resurrection Cemetery. When she gives directions to her home, she's giving directions to the cemetery. So this sort of thing's been going on for quite some time, and when we investigated it, we kind of thought maybe it was over. Maybe, all this stopped years ago and it was kind of a ancient myth kind of thing. But one of our listeners set us straight on that. They've got a relatively recent sighting from April of 2016.
Yeah, according to them, the location that they were at was Archer Road, about 1.5 miles before the Willowbrook Ballroom, where that was. So let's get started here. I was a passenger in the car, and I saw Resurrection Mary wearing white dress with beads and a headband. It looked like a flapper. She was standing next to a car where there was another car in front of hers at an angle on the side of the road, and she was waving her hands and arms vigorously at me, trying to get attention. I told my boyfriend, who was driving, look, there was an accident. But it seems so weird to me because she looks so out of place and like she didn't belong in this time. My boyfriend looked but didn't see anything. This happened a few months after the Willowbrook Ballroom burnt down.
This is it sounds very similar to like other incidents where people see her hitchhiking or something, trying to get their attention.
Yeah, just like the last podcast I was talking about a story with Jerry, according to one article, where he came across the same description, 1939 flapper, trying to get some kind of ride, I'm assuming. I don't know to what extent they saw her, like what the distance was, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of curious about hearing this description is when she said her boyfriend looked but didn't see anything. Does that mean he didn't see either of the cars either? Or does that just mean he didn't see the flapper?
Yeah, that wasn't entirely clear. I think it was referring to mainly the ghost Mary.
Well, if the cars were there and she wasn't, that kind of leads me to the question, was there an accident? And does that mean she just randomly shows up whenever there's a car accident now? Because that brings back the trauma of her death.
Yeah, and to be fair, that would make a lot more sense in terms of just like background of the sighting in comparison to, the most common one of where just straight out of where that ballroom was, he's asking for a ride to a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it is the case, but I don't know.
Speaking of the ballroom, I have to admit, I was kind of surprised to hear that it burned down.
Me too.
All the stuff we read when we were actually going to visit Archer Avenue kind of made it sound like the place was still there, and I was kind of puzzling over it while we were driving around. I'm like, where's that ballroom they were talking about?
Oh yeah, when there was some like tobacco shops and
Mm-hmm.
small businesses right across from it. I remember you mentioning that, I could have sworn that it talked about a ballroom around here, but it makes sense. Back in 2015, this thing burned down.
Yeah, apparently at 2 p.m. In October. I'm not sure the exact day. Do you know?
No website has specified what day it was. Like I literally just checked it and it didn't say anything, but I'm assuming shortly after like the article was released. It was October 28th when the articles were released mainly.
Oh, okay. So it was probably before then. And was there any part of the building left?
No, it was completely burned. Sounds like a really terrible accident, really. I don't even know how it burned down.
Yeah, it was really undetermined how it was burned down, but according to the website, it was burned up to the roof, nothing left.
Well, that would explain why the ghost is spending more time on the road now than in the ballroom.
Yeah. You guys think this sighting has many similarities with our last findings?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty similar, just like different people, basically.
Yeah, it certainly fits the general story. I mean, well, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are a lot of different versions of the story.
Yeah.
And it seems like she manifests herself in different ways. I mean, if we believe all the different stories that are told about her, sometimes she's a hitchhiker, sometimes she's in sitting looking lonely and lost in a bar or something. And, this one is actually probably more believable to me that she would be at the scene of an accident. That kind of makes more sense.
Yeah. And then this sighting also leads to a further question of maybe Mary was trying to get the ride that, was commonly mentioned in other sightings of trying to get to a cemetery from that area around the ballroom. And I don't know why the ghost was only seen by her in particular, not the boyfriend. I don't know the purpose behind that.
Well, people like psychics and spiritualists and stuff, they would tell you that some people have a stronger connection to that world than others. And that, I've met people who claim that they could see and hear spirits all the time, or see or hear spirits all the time. And, I have no idea. I don't see them or hear them, so I can't say, truthful or not. But they seem pretty convinced. Every now and then they'll come out with something that seems a little odd, that they should know something like this. And, they claim the spirits told them, and it lends a little bit of credence to what they're saying.
Yeah, and we've talked to really credible people too, like just random waitresses that we happen to ask about ghosts, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we saw them," or know people who saw them.
Mm-hmm. And again, sometimes it was a group of people, and only one or two people saw them, even though they all should have seen them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. We have seen other examples of these spirits being more particular.
You could, of course, play devil's advocate and say, well, maybe that's because one person is hallucinating and the other person is not. So, I don't want to misconstrue this as me, wholeheartedly endorsing, psychics and spiritualism. Like everything that we discuss here, I am open-minded and considering all possibilities.
Yeah.
So, does this change your feelings at all on the Resurrection Mary thing? Because I got to tell you, after our investigation, I felt like it was case closed. I felt like, okay, we're done. This haunting is over. Let's go on and see if we can find something more recent.
This has added more evidence or more reason to why in the past there have been a lot of sightings and encounters with Mary, but now with the area being burned down, just a ton of history around this area, like a lot of reconstruction, I'd say. Yeah, it just really seems like it's all been kind of wiped out today, but clearly in the past it's been there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this just proves that Resurrection Mary just likes to pop in here and there.
Yeah.
Maybe she's not constantly there, but likes to come back.
Yeah, I just don't know if today it would be possible for Resurrection Mary to make another encounter somebody else or make contact with somebody else today.
You think her energy has been fading steadily over time, and since even this encounter was, almost 10 years ago?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'd be leaning towards.
Maybe.
I think we need a psychic in our team.
Yeah.
We need somebody who can actually see and hear these things, and so that even when we're walking around saying, no, nothing here, another waste of time, let's go get some nachos.
Yep, psychic for sure.
Yeah, they could be telling us what we're not seeing.
Yeah.
Well, definitely interesting, and I certainly thank our listener for sharing that with us. I think I at least have reopened the case in my mind. I don't know that we're going to revisit that area anytime soon, but if we stumble across a reason to go down there, I'm not going to be against it either.
Yeah.
Well, as always, we thank you for listening, thank you for subscribing, and especially thank you for sharing these stories with us. We love hearing from all of you these encounters that you have, especially when we go through these dead spots like we're in now, when we don't get to go out and actually explore as much as we'd like to. So we're kind of living vicariously through you right now until the school year ends and we get some more time on our hands so we can go out and do some stuff.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you all.